Hello, everyone. Was you doing your Rhythm Nation thing? Because I was just
Look, I
watching.
already got music playing in my head. Don't.
Because I was watching Hulu and I was watching the Janet Jackson documentary. It was really good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it was. Hello, everyone. We are back. We are back. We are back. And typically, I would
Woo.
be dancing, but my co-host is dancing today. She gave y'all that Rhythm Nation, and
Yes.
oh, she went old school on us. Thank you guys for joining us yet again for another Elevate in Life. I'm so
Woo.
excited. I get excited every week though
That's good.
about this opportunity. I tell people this is where I feel like I live. I hope somebody pick up the show one day. Oh, Jay picked it up, but I hope somebody
But
pick up the show and then we be
build
doing
it
this.
and they will come.
Yes. So I'm Sheila Little. We're gonna do our introductions, go right into it. So I'm Sheila Little.
I'm
And
Danielle MacArthur.
yes, and you are listening to Elevating Life. How to elevate in your love, that's the L, interactions, that's the I, focus, and energy, right? And I'm really excited about having these conversations because they're candid conversations and they're really for, I would say, they're adult conversations because I think that we struggle a lot in our life, right? Because there's no blueprint, there's no manual, there's nothing to really tell you what to do when you're in a bind in your life. Like typically when you're at work, it's like conflict management or go through this or do that. But in life, I feel like we repeat the same behaviors over and over and over again because we just don't know any better. Okay. And so this whole elevating life is truly to ascend you, right? Because we have a education process that kind of is a more of a lateral movement, right? Which is
Mhm.
like, you just kind of learn skills along the way and you're kind of more anchoring yourself in this thing. But elevation is more how I'm thinking, right? And what I guess I'm gonna use the word what frequency or what level am I thinking on? And we
Yeah.
can think, at very immature levels, right, of life and how to solve our problems, or we can think from a very mature level in
Yes.
how to really you know, elevate. And so the purpose of this podcast is to get you to think or to help you mature in your thinking and truly just take accountability for your life,
Yes.
overall. Just take accountability for your life, accept where you're at, and then let's move forward with the plan. I am, like I said, she a little. I have 20 years as a therapist, a clinical therapist. Um, I have multiple degrees, but the last one that I'm working on, Miss Danielle, is my PhD in business psychology.
Doctor.
Um, yeah, with a focus on industrial and organizational psychology. And the reason I went into business psychology is truly because I wanted to take big company principles, like I want to see like these processes and systems, and how can I, transfer them into systems for people to live. You know what I mean, in their personal life. And so it's like, why did you go to business psychology? Well, I feel like it was a marriage between an MBA and a clinician, and it's like the MBA has all of this data or processes, and then the clinician is more like emotional, and it was a good integration between the two. So I am the president and CEO of Shaping Solutions Leadership Training Development Inc., which is a nonprofit geared to really help individuals who work in the health and human service fields, coaches, nurses, therapists, um, anybody who work with people to help them elevate their life. Because I feel like they go through a lot of burnout, and a lot of times we don't heal our stuff, and we end up getting re-traumatized along the way.
Mhm.
And my co-host, Miss
Hey, hey.
Danielle. Mm-hmm.
So I'm Danielle MacArthur. I just did 15 years of indentured servitude in corporate, and I learned by happenstance all of this stuff that she's getting a formal degree in.
Yes.
So, 15 years in food manufacturing taught me a lot about, management skills, all that corporate rigmarole. But one of the best things I got out of it was a lot of root cause analysis training that I value dearly, which allows me, uh, gives me the ability. I love solving problems, correcting, issues, trying to eliminate problems. So that's what I do at my company, DCDR Solutions. I help
Mm-hmm.
small businesses, entrepreneurs make that leap or determine if that leap is for them because it's not for everybody
Yeah.
to leap into business. So, working with people to make sure, are they in the right mindset and do they have the right grasp of what they're getting into? So,
Yes, yes.
that's
And
me.
I love it because you work with the novice and people here. You work with that entrepreneur that's
That
going in
beginner phase that
that
nobody likes to
beginner.
talk about.
Yeah. And I love that because I think then you give them a big picture of what this is about, and then they can have the choice to say yes. Or if they don't take your services, then they know like what to look for or who to get. And I also love that you work with products. Not to say that you don't work with mindset, but
Yeah.
products specifically, and
Yes.
an individual who's looking to
Yeah.
like launch a
Innovate.
product. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
What
that
would that look
being able
like?
to think outside of their normal scope. Because most people with products, they think about the one product, but they don't think about a lot of the related and supporting products that they could
Yeah.
sell very easily with, to boost theirs. Because you always want to catch all the different ranges. So yes,
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's us. We are your
that's it.
hosts today, and we your host every Monday when we record, and then we launch it on Thursday. But that's a whole nother conversation. Hey, let's do our quote of the day, right? Because I like to come in with a quote to kind of set the tone
Yeah.
for um for our show. So, Miss
Ooh,
Danielle, do you want to read
I
our
would be
quote?
honored.
Mm-hmm.
Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Oh, this is so powerful.
That
When we
is.
go into today's session, keep that up there for me a little bit, Jay. So Jay, we have Jay, who's the engineer. He's in the background. He doesn't ever say anything, but we're gonna thank
Engineer
him.
extraordinaire.
Yeah, yeah. So life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. This is so powerful to me, and it's the reason for this show today because our topic, you don't have to go to it yet though, Jay, is around this. Like, how do we create a life for ourselves? I think so many of us are so reactive in our personal life, in our professional life too. We're reacting to situations, we're responding to people, our parents, our friends, what do they want? And we're trying to understand everybody else versus stopping it, which is my program, Stop It Now, right? Which is focused on stopping all of that momentum around your previous life and then restarting this creative mindset from this creation. Like, if I had the life that I wanted, what would that look
Yes.
like? And I don't really think that we consciously or unconsciously are creating the life we're experiencing, Miss Danielle.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Because you
Eh,
get lost along the way. Life likes to life really hard, and it
yeah,
can throw
yeah.
you off of the track.
So here's the remarkable thing. So I just want to send a prayer out for my sister. My sister, she's dealing with some health issues,
Okay.
and so I just ask all our audience to pray for her and lift her in prayer. Her name is Benita, and so we was talking, and so she kind of said, life is like, whoa, right? And when she said that, it was a response in my spirit. But what if life was like, wow, you know? What if life was like, wow, you know what I mean? But I think so many of us feel like life is this hard, difficult type of thing that we got to struggle through and make it through. And me personally, I see a therapist, and after my therapy session, I'm gonna go into my therapy session at lesson. So y'all keep watching so y'all can know what happened in my therapy sessions. What's today's topic? Oh, mindful moment. Let's do our
Life.
mindful moment.
Because I'm about to say, I had something I wanted to say about life. I came up with this hilarious analogy, but I wonder if how you would feel about it.
No, no, say it. Say it before we go into our
Oh,
mindful moment.
oh.
Okay.
I came up with life is like being dropped off at a party you didn't want to be at.
Mm,
So you get dropped off. It's a bunch of people, and I feel like who do you become? Are you just
mm,
gonna stand in the wall and be mad that you're there? Are you gonna be the person that kind of okay, I'm gonna make the most out of it? Are you gonna just kind of dance to yourself? Are you gonna go meet people? That's the scenario. It reminded me of college because that happened to
mm,
me at college a couple times where it's like
mm-hmm,
you end up at a party and you're like, this ain't my jam, and it's
mm-hmm.
like, well, you gonna sit here and sulk about it, or you gonna make the best out of it?
Oh, okay. So before we go into our mindful moment, because I think that's amazing. So when I took my little spiritual little thing, when I was like, I'm going to step away from my old life and like reintroduce this new life and create my life and circumstances, which I'm still creating, which I think you create for the rest of your life.
Constantly, yes.
I heard this woman say it was called a soul contract or something like that. And what it said was that you knew before you got here, and this is my saving grace all the time, and I'm gonna just say it. You knew before you got here the life that you were going to get, and you made a soul agreement that, yep, I know that my mom is not going to treat me right. Yep, I know that boyfriend is going to hurt me. Yep, I know that that job is going to fire me. Yep, I know that my environment's going to, but I still agree to go and keep my purpose for coming along the way. So I promise not to lose love. I promise to stay in purpose, and I promise to stay in gratitude before you actually come into this world, right? Like you actually know that these things are going to happen to you, and you made a soul agreement that no matter what happens, though, I am going to be the soul that I was before I came. That is like my saving grace when it comes to situations that I'm like, I didn't even know what's going to happen. It's like, no, Sheila, you knew that that was
You
going to
know.
happen. That was an agreement that you made before you came here. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that works for me because I do think somewhere in our intelligence, we knew the life that we were coming into. So when you say I was dropped off at a party that I didn't want to be at, I think that's powerful because I think a lot of people feel that way. But what if you was dropped off at a party that you absolutely knew you were supposed to be at and you had to then make the best out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be kind of like my shift in that with that question. Okay. So what you think about that?
No, that's a good spin because what sparked that was somebody I had read something where a girl was like, I didn't ask my mama to be born. I didn't ask to be here. And
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
where that came from, a sense of there's such a group of people that, they're at a very desolate place and they really feel like they don't want to be here. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
okay, so what are you gonna do with that if
Yeah.
that's how
But
you
what if
feel?
you chose those parents? What if it was something in
Yeah, I'm about
forgiving?
to say, yeah, you going into that soul contract. That's a
Yeah,
whole nother
yeah.
deep.
What if you chose those parents, right? And you agree, like I want to go to her because I know that in me healing her is going
She's
to
gonna
heal.
need me, yes.
She was going to need me or something like that, whatever that agreement was. And that was my saving grace in my transformation. Like, oh, Sheila, you asked to be here. You knew that was going to be your mama. You knew that was going to be your daddy. You knew that was going to be your brothers. And you knew that was going to be your kid's father. And you knew this was going to be the journey. And you already have everything you need to get through this. Okay.
Yes.
So let's take our mindful moment before we actually start this topic. So we're going
Mhm.
to take a deep breath, bring everything in. I'm going to blow it out. Right. Mindful moment, 14 minutes in. Let's take another one because I think we got into a conversation that could have triggered some people's thoughts. I'm going to take another one just to and breathe out. And so I think that this topic actually is good for our topic. The conversation we're having is good for our topic. And our topic today is
Life.
this is this is life.
Life.
This is life,
Life.
right? And and of course, life is an acronym, but life is a different acronym today than than we would typically use for the elevate in life, right? Because the truth of the matter is, this is life, right? And the circumstances and conditions that we go through is life, right? And how do we, and this conversation is all about how do we mitigate that? How do we work through that? How do we deal with how life is coming? Moreover, back to our quote, how do we create the life that we feel like we desire and deserve? You know. And so the first acronym in This Is Life, the L is for lessons.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, lessons. What do you consider a lesson to be, Miss Danielle?
A lesson is something that you learn from. Sometimes you choose to embark on a lesson, and sometimes lessons happen to you. But I think it's kind of like an event that happens with the intention that you are supposed to learn something from it. But what's
Mm-hmm.
Wikipedia say?
Oh, I didn't even look at Wikipedia. Let's see what Wikipedia says because I didn't even think. Let's see.
We play the see if
Lesson
Danielle can match the Wikipedia game
defined.
every week.
Huh? Yeah, lesson defined. So a lesson, an amount of teaching given at one time, at one period of learning or teaching. And then it says, it gives like a pat instruct for to teach. Um, and then it talks about the Bible. But some synonyms to lessons are sessions, period, exercises, assignments. Oh, I like that. Assignment. Oh, I like that word for a lesson. And so basically, if we use the word assignment, that you are in life, there's these lessons. And I put down something that we live and we learn. And I think people, that's it. We live and we learn. And we're constantly living and we're constantly learning. And that's it. But I think that we add, like, we live, we learn, we get pain, we get hurt, we get, like, we add these other lower energies or lower experiences, and
Hmm.
we don't get the lesson,
Yes.
because we're not learning from the experience. We're allowing the experience to justify the state that we're currently in, right? Or to justify our current beliefs.
Hmm.
She funny. You heard the phone. I didn't understand that. Well, let me break it
Ain't
down for
nobody
you.
talking to you, phone.
Right.
Talking to the people.
Um. So listen, if you have a belief already
Hmm.
that all men cheat, I'm gonna use that one. All men cheat. They're
Lord,
not
yeah.
faithful. They lie and they cheat, right? And then you get with the person and they cheat, right? And then you like, see, I knew it, right? He a cheater, he a liar, you can't trust no man. Well, you didn't really get the lesson in that because that's not really a lesson. That's more of a projection of your belief. So
Hmm.
you're just living out your current belief system. And lessons are there to upgrade our belief system, right? Just like you go through school and you learn math and subtraction, and then you use that to learn division and
Hmm.
multiplication, and then you use that to
Keep
learn
building and
algebra, right?
growing.
Yeah.
Geometry,
So
trigonometry. Yes.
each problem or each assignment is there. You learn it to only build on a different assignment,
Like that
right?
analogy. That's a good one.
Yeah. But what we do, we don't do that. We go into the class like, I don't know math. I don't know how to add and subtract. And then we take the test, we fail it, and then it's like, see, I told you I ain't no math. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's not it, right? The whole assignment is for you to learn how to do addition and subtraction because there is a more complex place that you
Yes.
have to go to. And if you're just taking life at face value for what life is giving you, right,
Look,
then
you
you're going
speaking
to
my
be in some
you speaking my
decision.
soul, and I gotta share this story about perspective, and it was very similar because it's it goes back to those narratives you tell yourself. So like one, and I'll keep it brief. So I studied biology, a subset of biology in college, which requires a lot of non-biology classes. One of the ones I hated the most was statistics. And I couldn't stand a class. I'm like, I'm not good at statistics. That was the narrative I'm forming in my head. I'm not good at statistics. I didn't care about the class. Final, I got a 23%. I didn't care. I got just enough to pass the class. And so that narrative in my mind is I'm not good at statistics. I'm not good at statistics. But literally everything that I've done and all of my strengths are based on entry level statistics. And this literally was like the other day I had to step back and realize like even my F in statistics was better than probably the average person what they would have taken that class. And
Yes.
it's not that I'm bad at statistics. I'm just not amazing at statistics, but I'm pretty decent at statistics.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
but it took, it's been 15 years since I took that class, and to see that full circle about how narratives kind of construct, and it's like, oh, I can't do that. I'm bad at statistics. No, I'm not.
Yes.
I'm just not a
Yes.
statistics professor. I
Yes.
don't want to
Yes.
be, but
Yes.
I have a
Yes.
very good handle on
Understanding.
statistics. So that
Yes.
I love that you brought that up. That whole when you place narratives on yourself, you don't learn because
Mm-mm.
it's like, oh, well, that was gonna happen, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, why did
Yeah.
that happen?
Yeah. And we see this in relationships. Like,
Yes,
I don't like to argue, or all they want to do is argue. And a person can come to you in a very calm, like, hey, this is a discussion. We have to talk about this. And the other person is interpreting that
my mother.
as an argument, right? Like, no, but I'm not having an argument. I'm having a conversation. And yeah, we may disagree on this conversation, but I'm not being argumentative. But because you have a belief that I'm being argumentative, then now we may end up in an argument because you are the resistant one now,
My
right?
mom.
You are the resistant one now, right? And we see this, yes, in all type of relationships and all type of dynamics. And I just want our listeners to know that lessons are there. They are assignments to be completed
Mm-hmm.
with a passing grade before you can change your circumstances and conditions,
Yes.
right? And if you're failing because you have in some way acquiesced or in some way submitted to your current belief going into that, and you didn't change or rise to the occasion or do something different or just challenge your emotions, which we're going to talk about on this show, then this is why you are continuing the you live or you learn, and then the comma or period, life is stressful, life is hard, life is difficult, life is this, right? Because you're not getting the lessons. And
Mm-hmm.
lessons aren't easy. Remember, when you started school, you didn't know how to read. This is so mind-blowing to me that we feel like as human beings that we are adequately prepared for healthy relationships when you have not been acclimated in
Practice,
a
studied,
practice or
exposed.
study. What do healthy relationships look like? When you started school, you didn't know how a color, you didn't know how to write a alphabet. You went through kindergarten, preschool, then kindergarten. And some people started off in daycare,
Pre-K,
right?
yeah, pre-K,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you went to first grade and there was curriculum. In second grade, there was curriculum. In third grade, there was curriculum.
That
All the
built
way up
upon the
that
previous
built up
lessons.
on the previous lessons or assignments. But we cannot date and we can have failed relationships. Like all of our relationships could be failed relationships around us. But in some way, we have this thought that my Prince Charming gonna come in and save me from, or the best friend is going to come in, or the job is going to come in, but somebody else is going to come in,
Somebody else.
yeah, and save
Keyword.
me from this 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 chaos that I'm experiencing. And it's like,
Myself.
no, yeah, myself. And it's like, no, 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 that's not what that is. You actually are going to have to do some work. And that's why we're here. That's why you get a coach. That's why you get a therapist. That's why you talk to somebody, right? because it's like grade school. And in our programs, we actually have discovery level programs, right? Like Stop It Now. And then we have, strategy level programs like Shape Your Life. And then we ascend you, but we give you what you need in the progression. Or if I'm working with somebody, I'm starting with education and empowerment, right? Before I get to edification of who you are, because I need you to know some stuff first,
Hmm. Got to build
And
a
I just think
foundation.
you got to build a foundation. And so many of us are out here looking for the relationship of our dream, and it's possible, or the career of our dream, or our purpose and our passion, but we haven't done the work, the assignments that has been put before us. What we have done is had temper tantrums, and we play victim, and some of us have slipped into depression and anxiety, right? And
Hmm.
some mental health issues or some health issues where now we got high blood pressure and all of these things because we're not meeting life as it is. And remember, this is life, and it's assignment on both sides, on your money side and on your personal side. It's it's
Hmm.
it's an assignment. Okay. So the next one, anything about that one before we move on?
I
Lessons
think you hit the nail on the head. Lessons, things you go through and learn from
and learn
and
from
grow
because you,
as you
yeah,
approach the next life lesson.
yeah. And let's talk about that because I think that we can feel like we're not growing. And I think about a plant, and you're a gardener.
Hmm.
You can plant a seed and you can water that seed and you can water it for weeks and weeks and not see any growth to your eye,
Yep.
to your understanding. And then one day you look up and you're just amazed, like, oh my God, where did this you in your mind you think this cabbage just
Fell out the
grew up.
sky.
Just, yeah. Or this tomato just popped itself on the, no, like it was
No,
growing, but it was growing at such an incremental or such a
because it
small
had to lay the
rate.
foundation, had to
Yes,
secure its roots first. Then it had
yes,
to grow the ability to, recover energy from the sun so that it
yeah,
can get to the
yeah,
point of
yeah.
making a vegetable or a fruit.
Yeah. And even when we talk about colors and stuff, and not to get too much into science, but even the way that apple grows on a tree, so many leaves have to grow before an apple can actually grow
Yeah.
because the leaves catch so much of the sunlight. So in our process of growing, or with any vegetable, like so many leaves, so many stems have to grow because that is the container for the amount of absorption from the environment, if it's the sun or the rain or whatever, that
Oh,
it has to capture
and I'll take you
to.
one better. Some are seasons.
Oh
Some
yeah,
take years to even get to the point where they can make a
yeah.
fruit. So
Like,
you're sitting there, just like you said, you sitting here watching a whole tree, like, why ain't it making no fruit? It's not
yeah,
time to make the
it's
fruit
not
yet.
time to make food because it needs to be at a certain capacity before it can transmute the
Hmm.
environmental situations to produce this apple. Now, what does that mean in real life? You're going through situations and you feel like, oh, I'm not changing. I'm keep running to the same type of job. I'm keep running to the same type of experiences. But you may need seven of those experiences to garnish the capacity to be able to transmute that energy enough to even produce this thing that you're trying to produce. But on the fifth one, on that fifth cycle of a broken heart or whatever, you give in. You give in to depression, you give in to anxiety. Some of it is chemical, so some of it is,
Yeah.
truly chemical.
Outside of it,
But
control.
yeah, outside of our power. But even in that is how much we're absorbing to even allow, depression to be, released in our bodies, and anxiety to be released in our bodies. But some of it is definitely just within who we are and how we're created, you know.
Hmm.
So we're talking to the people who you're managing your emotions, and we call it conditional or environmental or transitional depression or anxiety. Like you're suffering from this because you're trying to manage a situation that you don't have the emotional capacity to manage, and as a consequence, you are feeling these other emotions.
Hmm.
Okay. The next one is what, Mr. J?
Hi.
Interpretations. So remember, this is life.
Hmm.
So we talked about lessons. So the one thing to create the life you want, because the quote said, what? Can you put the quote back up there for me, Jay?
What was it? Oh yeah, you're not life you're creating. Look, I already
Yeah,
forgot it that
life is
fast.
not given to you, but it's created.
Created. Yes.
Let me read it.
There you go.
Um, okay,
Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
right. So life is not about finding who you are; it's about creating who you are. And how many of us is like, I'm trying to find my passion. I'm
Hmm.
trying to find my purpose. I'm trying to find the right relationship, right? And what we don't realize is that we're creators in this life, right? And so, even the interpretation of that, the difference between finding my life and creating my life,
Yes.
is a huge interpretation, because misinterpretation, because I think a lot of us feel like we're on a journey of finding, like in some way, you know, that it's hiding behind something, and I need to pull this big rock back and get my little
Look,
message to send me to the next
I
place.
just thought of I just thought of a connection that may help this. So,
Okay.
because you keep saying it, and it's so funny because I want to find the right mate. Nobody tries to find a baby, right?
Mm,
So, for even if you weren't expecting to have a baby, you still have a period of time where you have to prepare for the
mm-hmm,
baby. But nobody's walking around, man, I wish I could find a baby. Like,
mm-hmm,
because they know everything that comes with it. And when you keep saying find a relationship, that's so triggering for me because it's like, it's exactly what you said. How about you create the life that the relationship will live in? Because that's like going to say, I'm going to buy a car and I don't even have a driveway to park it in.
mm-hmm,
Like, what are we talking about? You haven't
mm-hmm,
even cleared the first couple phases.
yeah,
Like, so it's so funny. Like, you keep saying it. And I know you're saying it because you've probably heard it a million times. And that's
a
so
million
sad
times.
because it's like, no, how about you worry about shaping the environment around you so that when that person arrives, they have something to come
Mm-hmm,
to, just like you would a baby. You don't
yes.
have a baby and then wait for the baby to get there to buy all the stuff.
Well, listen now, because I think you make a good point. Some people do,
Some people do.
right?
Some
Right,
people
and
do.
this is the point I'm making. Some people do because, one, they wasn't prepared for the pregnancy, right?
Trust me, I was one of them.
And they wasn't prepared for what mothering was. But people who are actually, quote unquote, healthier parents,
Yeah.
right? They prepared for this birth, like, so
Mhm.
they're more stable in their home because they know we got a baby coming,
You got a baby
right?
coming.
And so we got to have the rooms together. We're gonna paint the rooms. We're gonna do all this stuff. We're gonna have a baby shower. This is where because I even go to some people baby showers, and I'm just like, when did you have time to go and click all, like, detail by detail? Everything that they want is listed out, but they're so prepared for this baby. So I think that's a great analogy, because we can prepare for a baby that we
And look,
created,
and
or
everybody
we can
knows no matter.
respond to a baby
Yes.
that just happened because we had a good night, right?
Yes.
Out. And I can't believe I'm pregnant. I can't believe I'm pregnant for 7, 8, 9 months, and the baby come out, and I'm still can't believe I'm a mama. Like, and we're more reacting to the creation of this baby than
Yeah.
we are being proactive about that. And so interpretation is about perspective,
Yes.
right? What perspective, and again, perspective, are you finding? Are you trying to find a life? Or are you trying to create a life?
Hmm.
Right. And when we start thinking about the perspective we have on life, I think that you know which container you're in. So if you're
Hmm.
always looking for something, finding your purpose, reacting to life, then you more have a lens that I'm trying to figure out this life that was given to me. Like, and we hear this all the time. You got to play the cards that you're dealt,
Hmm.
right? And if you ain't get dealt, and I don't know if you play spades or not, but if you weren't
Yes.
dealt a good hand,
You gotta make it do what it do, baby.
you gotta make it do what it do. And that may not be no books for you. And if you don't get no books, you just gotta stuff it
You,
up.
but you
Stuff.
better help your partner get his
Yeah,
books.
yeah,
You can't just take the complete L.
yeah, yeah. So I think that some of us have that perspective. Well, I just gotta deal. I just gotta play the cards that I've been dealt. And I'm saying yes, at a time of your life, this is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta deal with the cards that's been dealt. But once them cards get out your hand and
Mm-hmm.
that game is over,
Move on
you
to the
can
next one.
get up off the table and say, I ain't playing this game no more, right? You can choose something different.
Mm-hmm.
You could choose a different game. You could walk away. You could say, that's not for me. And you could start creating or training yourself for either to sit back at the game. So, whatever cards you dealt, you can deal with them better or play a different game. But I think that you just think we just going to sit here and life just going to keep dealing me these bad hands. And
Look,
I'm stuck on this seat. I just got to keep playing the cards that I'm dealt.
I'm still taking it a step back, and because even though you got those bad hands, using the spades analogy, it'll
Mm-hmm.
touch home. It's still, how do you play that bad hand?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just
You know?
play it recklessly, or do you try to get a book? Because we all seen them Hail Mary books. We all seen them bad eights. Get a book.
Come through.
So,
But even for an eight to be bad, you got to know how to count them cards.
you gotta know how to count them
You
cards.
got to know how to play that hand. And so many of us don't even know. And it took me a minute to figure out when an eight is bad. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like an eight ain't bad if the king is still out there and the queen is still out there, and you just gonna hit this eight and cut with this eight, and
Okay.
this person cutting next to you. You know what I mean? And ain't a spade been played, and you played that eight like it was the baddest spade on the
Yeah, no,
table.
no, no, no.
No, no, no. So again, we go back to lessons, right? You learn that
You
as
learn
you
that.
play the cards, but there's a point where you can get up from the table. And I think we need to know that. It's a point where you can say, I need help. I'm gonna get up from the table. I'm gonna learn how to play the cards that I'm dealt in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us don't do that. We just sit at the table and sulk in
Man,
our
well,
limited ability in being able to play the cards that has been dealt to us.
mhm.
Another thing about perspective is we talked about these lenses that we see life through, and we've been talking about this, and I've been trying to braid this in to each one of our shows. This emotional intelligence lens, right? So, are you the victim, right? Are you the shoulda coulda woulda person? So are you in victim stage? Are you in achievement stage, or are you creating win-win situations? Like, or are you in duty phase, right? Which phase are you actually in your life, and what is that doing for you? And so many of us is in these perspectives of victim and duty. I'm doing this because this is what I got to do. You don't even understand. My family been doing this forever. I got to be an attorney, or I got to be, I got married. I need to stay in this relationship. I got here at 17. I got in this relationship. We've been together. Oh, I meet a lot of people. I'm not going to touch the marriage one, but I get a lot of people who like, well, we've been together for 5 years. And I'm like, well, how old are you? 36. Okay, so you live 31 years without this person. So why are you so vested in these last 5 years if it's not producing what you wanted to produce? And I'm not telling you to leave the relationship, but I am telling you
Assess
to
it.
take a step back and let's see what kind of relationship you want, because a rising tide lifts all boats. And if you go back into that situation with a different mindset, with a clear plan, then that person is going to either elevate or they're going to fall off. And you'll have a clear understanding of, okay, I know I did the best I could do,
Yes.
before going back in this situation. So, what do you think about perspective?
Oh no, that is that's funny. That's like one of my favorite words and topics to bring up to people, because I've realized so many people lack it. And sometimes it's from a genuine, they've never been exposed to certain things. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I'm thinking of like just experiences in general, not necessarily like relationships, but so many people, they don't talk to people. They don't know enough about other people's journeys and stuff like that to really have that perspective to, whether it comes to just like what you said, I tell a lot of people about the relationships I've been through in a hopes that they will hear something and gain some perspective on what they're doing. And yeah, maybe you shouldn't be doing that same thing. And whether they change or not, that's on them. But I love perspective. That's one of my
Hmm.
favorite topics.
And I want to go back to the interpretation part because I do feel like interpretation is important because how are you interpreting what's happening in your life,
Yes.
right? And this is so important to know what lens you have on or perspective you have on because that's going to directly give you a narrative or interpret how you're experiencing a situation. So, like I said, you're talking to your mom. I don't like to argue, mom, right? But because she is in that mindset, like
Yeah. Because
of
she,
arguing.
anytime I pose any question,
Hmm.
I'm arguing.
Hmm.
And that's the conversation, because she does not like to be questioned.
Hmm.
And it's like, but you pooped out this really smart child,
Hmm.
but for some reason you don't want to acknowledge how smart, it's like you rely on me for my smarts for other things, but the minute I question you, I'm arguing. And it's,
Yeah.
you don't know how many times I've heard that, and it's just like, mommy, I'm not arguing. I'm trying to have an adult conversation. And it goes back to the theme and what we started with. These are adult conversations,
Yeah.
because there are so many people, they are so quick to argue
Yeah.
immediately or perceive
What
arguing.
you're doing is an
Yes,
argument.
they're interpreting as you're coming at me, so I got to be defensive. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, I'm just questioning you to get a better understanding of what you're trying to say to me. You may not like. I think I've been seeing that going around. People are taking, direct feedback as negativity because everybody's so caught up in little bubbles
Hypersensitive.
that, yeah,
Hypersensitive. Hmm.
hypersensitive. And it's like you can't even give people realistic feedback, or they feel attacked. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah. I think this is important too because if you want to elevate in life, right? You really have to listen to how did I interpret that and why? Like the
Yes.
first thing is like, so why would I think about somebody's intention, right? Why
Hmm.
would I think as your mom, why would I think my daughter would want to argue with me, right? Why would I think that that person that don't know me at all has a vendetta against me, why would I think this? And if you ask yourself that in the next 10 interpretations that you have or exchanges, and all of them are around surrounding you as somebody doing something to you, somebody don't want you to have something, somebody got an attack on you, somebody feeling some type of way about you, somebody hating on you, somebody doing something to you. If 9 or 7 out of 10 things is an attack on you, then I think you need to really talk to somebody about how you're interpreting life and where did
Yes.
you get this need to defend you so much that anything that happens, you got like this one eye open, one eye closed, looking at folks with the side eye. You know what I mean? Because we see the world as we see ourselves. And when people talk to me, I'm like, if you always talking about, well, you can't trust people, you can't trust people. My inkling is to think, but are you trustworthy? Because if you're telling me I can't trust, I can't trust, then you see the world as you see yourself. So do you have an intention to be mistrusty? You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh no, 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 but no, because that that's a strong narrative that you can't trust nobody. So if I can't trust nobody, are you included in that
Okay.
scenario? Because I do believe you can trust people. You know, I feel like people show you who they are, and you could trust exactly what they show you to be, and you could trust that. Okay.
Amen.
So perspective. So three, again, we're talking about this is life. And if we're trying to elevate in our love and our interactions and our focus and our energy, then we need to have a process of maturing, right? Like truly like forming from the inside and maturing who we are as an individual. And we gave the example earlier about, when you first started grade school, you didn't know how to write, you didn't know how
Hmm.
to read, you didn't know anything. And you had to go through grade school. I mean, you had to literally go through a 12 year,
12 years.
14 year. yeah, 14-year academic process to even learn the basics,
Yeah.
right? And then if you wanted to specialize in a certain thing, you had to go to college, right?
Mhm.
Another 4 years. And then if you wanted to master in that thing, then you have to go another 2 years. And if you want to be a doctor, then you go in another 4 years, right? Of
Mhm.
education just to develop this skill set. And I think they said it takes 10,000 hours to perfect the skill. But we in our personal life can have one relationship
Mhm.
or very minimal relationships and feel like we are due like a healthy relationship. We are due a situation or a circumstance or a condition where you should know what I want and give it to me. Well, no, because you don't even know what you want because you ain't even, done the work. And that ain't shade. That's just,
No,
you
that's reality. It's
yeah,
what you said, adult conversations.
yeah, yeah.
If you
So
took that as shade, you need to
yeah, yeah.
stop and
And
put
and
some
again,
perspective.
just to the audience, just ask yourself, what do you want? I'm
Mhm.
just gonna pose that question to you. What do you want? What do you want in your love life? What do you
Mhm.
want in your finances? How much money do you want to make a year?
Mhm.
What type of career can you see yourself waking up to every day? Right? So, what do you
Yes.
want in your love life? How much money do you want to be coming in every year? What purpose or what is the career that you want for yourself? Right? What could you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? Right?
Mhm.
What type of experiences do you want to have in your life?
Yes.
Right? Are
That's
you an
big.
adventurous person? Do you want to travel? What places do you want to see? And five, just who do you want to be? Who do you want to be when you show up to the world? Those are
Mhm.
five questions, right? Money,
Mhm.
lifestyle, career, relationships, and person. Five
Mhm.
questions. Answer those. If you can't answer those, then you probably need to DM me. Because remember, the quote said, or DM Miss Danielle, because the quote said that we don't find our life, we create our life. And the
Yes.
only way we're going to create our life is to, one, be able to at least answer them five questions. How much money you want to make? What do you want to be doing to make that money? What do you want your relationships to look like? What do you want your social life to look like? And who do you want to be when you show up in the room?
Yes.
Right? And most people be like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to find out. All right. My next question to you is focus,
Yes.
right? Get a plan.
Start
And
small.
yeah. And here's
Start.
the thing about having a plan. Who do you admire to be? If you can't figure out who it is you want,
Girl.
then
Yes.
who life do you see around you that you
Yes.
would like to mimic? If you
Start
can't figure
small.
it, yeah, if you can't
It
figure
could
it
be
out
the lady
yourself,
down the street. Ooh, I really like her house.
yeah,
It
I
doesn't
like how
have
she
to be
decorated.
celebrity. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be anything big. I think a lot of people get that confused too, because it's like they see all these big plans and all this big stuff going on in the world, but it's perfectly okay to be yourself.
yeah,
If that's
yeah,
not for you, it's okay. Be
yeah,
happy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
listen, remember, even we go back to the what came up in my spirit. So even the apple has to borrow energy from the tree before it forms its own seed.
Mhm.
Right? When it forms its own seed, then it has the ability to make its own apple tree, right?
Mhm.
But it comes from something before it could be something, right?
Mhm.
We talked about that. I mean, even we have to birth our kids and they have to live a life and be modeled before they can go create their own life. So it's okay if you don't know how much money you want to make, what your lifestyle is going to be, what your career is. But at what point are you going to start to ask yourself those questions
Yes.
and do the work required to answer them? And the
Yes.
first step, if you don't know, then look outside of you. Who do you see that you like, man, I really like their life? Now, listen, the thing that's going to pop up for most of us is, are they faking it? Is that
We ain't
real?
worried about all that. Don't
But
worry.
we're
Don't
not
get lost in
worried
the
about that.
details. That ain't
Yeah.
neither here nor there.
No, we can't worry about that, right? Because they're just the frame for the picture that you're going to paint,
Mhm.
right? So when we see individuals, they're just a framework for the your picture. But sometimes we don't got the picture or the frame. At least if I saw somebody's life, I could say, you know what, I really like my first mentor, Stacy. She used to come into the shop. She was always well dressed. I liked how people like respected her, you know.
Mhm.
And at that time, I mean, I did hair and I liked that, but I didn't really have a purpose or like a what I wanted to be. So when I
Yeah.
saw her, I was like, I want to be like her. And it
Yeah.
was other ladies that came into the shop. I'm like, I want to be like her. Like, I like how she hold herself together. Like this, they just had like this regalness to
Yeah.
them, and that was definitely something that I wanted. And so I would like, you know, with Stacy, she became my mentor. But with the other ladies, every time I see them, even today, I'm like, man, I've always looked up to you. Like you just always had this way about you that inspired me to
Hmm.
want more from my life and to want to do more and be more in who I am. Does that make sense?
Oh no, I had the exact same with the wonderful woman I called my mentor. It was exactly that, where it was like I got around her and saw how she could command a room, and then as I got to know her, knowing like how real she was, and I was like, okay, I can see you can have
Yeah,
both, because that was one
yeah,
of my struggles is, when you're in a corporate environment, like maintaining your sense of self while fitting into that environment. And she
yeah,
was the first example where I saw a true balance. And it was
yeah.
like, okay, how do I do what she's doing?
Yeah, yeah. And then ask questions. But when we talk about focus, remember where your intention goes, your energy flows. I got this
Amen.
perfect story for this. Very personal. I was in a relationship for like 13 years. The first maybe 8, 9, maybe even 10 years of that relationship, I had a story about men in general, right? And so I had like emotionally remove myself from the story, right? And every time that individual did something that matched my story, I was like, see, that's why I ain't even emotionally attached. Like, that's why I'm just trying to get my degree, you know, raise my boys, like all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so numb towards that year 10. And I was like, I just don't even care anymore. Like, I'm just trying to get my degree, get stable, raise my boys. Like, you know, he gonna do what he want to do, all of that, right?
Yeah.
And it was just, I came in with that narrative. I have a dad who definitely teaches me that all men cheat, even to today. Girl, all men gonna cheat on you.
Sound like my
Like
mama.
that's yeah. So you know, so there was always just this little bit of distrust and really meeting a man. But what I noticed though is that I only paid attention to those things, right? So I only paid attention to
Focused on the negative.
on the negative things. Like, so I never paid attention to how many times he called or checked up on me. I only paid attention to the times he didn't call and didn't check up on us, right?
Yes.
And I
Respect.
made those things really big. So when we decided to part ways, and that's why I say have a plan, my plan was I learned that what my attention goes, my energy flows. And I'm going to pay attention because we got these boys. I'm going to pay attention to who, one, I'm accepting for the man that he is, but I'm going to start paying attention to the great things he do.
Yeah.
That was my plan. So even when I called my dad, I put my dad on board with the plan like that. If I call you on some what he ain't do, stop me.
Mm-hmm.
Stop me because I only want to talk about the things he do great and I only want to talk about the things that I want to start noticing in him. I tell you within 2 years, that seemed like a long time, but it really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Within 2 years, our relationship shifted
Yes.
so much that like he became my supporter of my business. At first, he was like, "You need to go be a therapist. Don't start no business." You know, we had so much conflict, but he became one of my highest supporters in my
Mm-hmm.
business. You know, even today, it's like, yeah, I believe in you. Like his narrative started to change about me. We developed a great co-parenting relationship,
Yes.
right? But it all was because I stopped paying attention to the things that he didn't do. Now, mind you, he still do that stuff. Like
I
I
can
laugh at
imagine.
it now. I laugh like, man, I
Look,
remember
man,
that
you
would have
speaking to
made
my
me,
soul because I got a
that would have made
exact
me
similar
so,
story with my
yes,
first
that would have
son's
made me
father.
so upset. Like I would have been crying. I would have been so
But now
mad
you
when he
could
did
just be
that.
like, boy,
But
you
now
crazy.
I'm just like, boy, you so funny. Like
You so
I'll call you
funny.
back. Come back, friend. Just get off the phone. But it's because I chose to shift my focus and I had a clear plan in place on how I was going to shift that focus. When I did that with him, I had already kind of done it with my parents. When I did that with him, then I started to like, okay, Sheila, do it to you too. Have a plan on what you're going to say about yourself and how you're going to see yourself. And stop paying attention to the stuff that you don't have. And stop paying attention to stuff that you're not able to do. Start paying
Amen.
attention to the stuff you do have and what
Preach.
you are able to do and how accomplished you are. And when I started to do that, when I tell you like my confidence, just my, it
Woo-hoo.
ain't even, I ain't gonna even say confidence. I'm gonna say my worth,
Yeah,
my value, like how
it's
I
sense of self.
understood this woman to be as far as valuable. Yeah, that just went through the roof. So I just want the audience to know, have a plan, but share your story with us, Miss Danielle.
Oh, yes. So for me, very similar. So I tell everybody this story. I spent 2 years actively hating my first son's father, like with every fiber of my being. And I have no, because that's just where I was. I was so angry about the series of events, yada, yada, yada. And after 2 years, very similar, I was just like, I'm tired of this. I can't keep this up anymore. Like it's just draining all of my energy. Let's not focus on that. It's done. It's over. We're in this co-parenting situation because we had a kind of a 50-50 split from day one. And so it
Mhm,
was, I had a breakup and then I still had to see him every day, every day,
mhm,
every day. And that's what I struggled with. But after I got through it, and it was just like you said, let's focus on the good. And part of that was going through the experience with my second son's father, which is a whole different story. But I was able to get that perspective where it's like, it's not that bad.
mhm,
Like you said, start to pay attention to all the little things that he did very well and
mhm.
all of his strengths and paying, encouraging him to follow his strengths. Because, in my opinion, if I build you up, it's only more beneficial for our children if both
Yeah,
of us are, successful and knowledgeable
yeah,
and very
yeah,
mindful
yeah.
of the growth. And so this is only beneficial as long as we're on the both on the same page. And I love that you brought up that story. I didn't even know, you had been through that because I feel like so many women don't, they miss the mark and
Yeah.
they stay in that place of hate. Because mind you, I admit it, I was in it and
Mhm.
it felt like it was supposed to be good at the time, but it doesn't because it becomes your whole world, and
It
I
does.
didn't focus on anything else. So I wasted 2 years of my life on somebody who was la di da da da, wasn't paying me
Mhm.
no attention.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just that's why I tell people that because it's like, yes, you could be in it, you could be upset. We're all humans at the end of the day. We have these
Yeah.
things called feelings. They get hurt. It's
Mhm.
okay, but it's all about how long do you sit in it.
Yes,
How long do
yes,
you
yes,
marinate in it? And
yes.
you can't do it till the end of time.
Right. And I want to go back to a fundamental principle too, and I thank you for sharing that because I think that that's we don't get what we want, we get who we are. And
Mhm.
if you're being angry and bitter, and again, even as a therapist, I can sit with people and they're like, yeah, he did this and he did that and he did this. And then I'm like, so you just didn't do nothing? Oh
Okay.
yeah, man. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I did. I cussed him out, but I cussed him out because he did this, right? And know that he has a justification for why he's doing what he's doing to you, right?
Don't
Both
point
of the
fingers.
stories are supported, but we tend to have more compassion for the things we do when we do them, right, wrong, or indifferent, and less understanding for why a person is doing what they're doing to you. Like we don't have as much compassion and understanding when a person is mean to us or they're rude to us or they're, disgruntled with us. Like we don't understand. Like, why would you be like that? But if we are the disgruntled one, oh, we could justify it. Like, oh yeah, I did that because if you only understood, like my day was bad or this happened, we got all type of justifications. But the important part is we don't get who we want, we get who we are. And we
Mhm.
have to learn how to be the change that we want to see in the world And this is a part of the lesson, right?
Mhm.
When you can be that thing that you're looking for outside of you, when you can start to embody that, then you got the lesson. Like you
Mhm.
want this person to be honest, then start being honest with them. And the
Okay.
honesty may not feel good, right? You may have to say, I'm not attracted to you like that, or you don't turn me on like that, versus just getting in the bed and having,
And I love
girl
that
sex.
because sit in why does the honesty feel bad? Is it
You
because you've created this narrative
yeah, yeah,
that
or
is
you just
based on falsehood?
yeah, yeah,
That's when it starts to feel bad and realize, like you said, that perspective. Why do I feel like telling him the truth feels bad right now?
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And so many
have
of
you
us
been
in
lying to them?
and on both sides, we have relationships with men who don't want to be honest with their women. We have
Hmm.
women who don't want to be honest with their men. We have friends who don't want to be honest with one another and hold each other accountable. And it's like, but you want them to be honest with you, but you ain't being honest.
Okay,
You ain't being your truth. You ain't saying what you feel. Now, listen, know this too, that we have four lobes in our brain, right? And
break it
we
down.
understand life four different ways. We have our frontal lobe, that is the thinking brain. We have our occipital lobe, which is what we see. We have our this lobe, that's what we hear, and then we have
Temporal.
the peripheral lobe, and then we have our lobe up front. But all those four lobes have to be in agreement.
Hmm.
So you can have something in your mind that you're thinking, and I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, but it happens to me, and I go to say that thing and it like brings in another lobe, and I'm like, yeah, that didn't sound the way I thought it was gonna sound once I said it. Matter of fact, I don't even understand what I'm saying now. Now that I'm putting this information into context, it don't make no sense, right? And so sometimes we can have a truth inside of us that we feel like, yeah, you thinking this thing, and in your mind it makes so much sense. But then when you go to share it, you realize,
That didn't.
yeah,
That didn't.
probably that didn't that
Look, it's
wasn't,
funny because I will actively stop myself
yeah, yeah,
because that's one of the things I've trained myself to. I've told my husband that like when I get mad, I I'm a processor. I don't
mm-hmm,
like to initially react because it's like, why am I mad?
yeah,
And let me not say something,
yeah,
stupid or disrespectful or any, something in the heat of the moment. I feel like so
yeah,
many people fall into that heat of the moment
yeah,
and they say something and then, well, I didn't mean it, but you said
yeah.
it,
But you said it.
right?
Yeah,
So
but that ain't
obviously
how I
that's
meant
in
to
your
say
brain.
it. What I meant to say, it
Nah,
sounded
but you
different
still
in my
said it.
mind, but you still said it. Yeah, 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 yeah. Which I think bring us to E. So we have our lessons in life, because this is life. That's the name of it. That's the title of this show. This is life, and it's truly about just accepting the life that you were given. And how do we, from the quote, how do we stop trying to figure out our life and start creating our life?
Creating it.
Right, and creating the life we want, and how we start to make that shift from figuring out the life we want, which is more reactive, and creating the life we want, which is more proactive. One, we have to understand the lessons.
Hmm.
We have to get an interpretation. Get the interpretations right. Make sure that you are
From
perceiving
both
life,
perspectives,
yeah,
all
from,
perspectives.
and then I'm gonna say this. When something happened to me, I still say everything is working for my good. I don't care what happens to me. My
Hmm.
perspective on life, I could have just had a bad situation, and I know that that bad situation is for my good.
Yes.
So now the emotions that I would have felt if that situation was like to affect me, I would probably be in a bed for weeks at a time, right?
Hmm.
But because I know that that happened for my good, and I know that I have a focus and a plan, right? Then it's like, okay, well, maybe that's just what I'm meant to be. Okay, God, now show me the next step or the next
And
way.
say it slow for the people in the back. I
Yeah, like,
love that you said that's exactly how I approach life. Whereas I've had that conversation with my mom. My mom's a side seat rage driver. Like somebody cut us off and she's like, honk your horn. And I'm like, why, mommy? Because
yeah,
they need to know why. Why,
yeah,
mommy? What's me honking my horn going to
yeah,
do? Does that just make you feel better? Like I don't understand the intention in
yeah,
that. Like, would you
yeah,
control your emotions, woman?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think that this is why we talk about emotions, right? Because to really start creating your life, we have to know that this is an emotional journey. So
Hmm.
many of us are detached from our emotions. I hear people say, I don't do love. I don't do love. Like, and I'm like, but if love is God, and I believe in God, I believe in a higher power. If love is God, how are you detached from the source of what you were created in,
Okay.
created to have, to be? But so many of us struggle with this emotion of love, right? And when people struggle with the emotion of, I just say, well, find out what you like then. Just figure out what you like and then possibly get to love. But under emotions, we have what, Mr. J? Learn how to manage
Man,
your emotions.
amen. We didn't say get
Not,
rid of them.
mm-mm. No, don't hide them. Don't tuck them. Don't distract them. Don't be distracted by them. But
Don't let them
learn,
consume you.
yeah, to manage them. Listen, every emotion that we experience is a good emotion. Don't let people say that anger is bad and happiness is good and joy is best and love is one.
You
I
need
don't even
all
see
of them
emotions,
for
but
balance. That's what I
every
always.
emotion needs to express itself,
Mhm.
right? And that is what life is looking to do, express itself. And if we're saying that we are spiritual beings having an human experience, to me, if we had layers to life, then I would say that you have the spiritual realm and then you have the emotional realm.
Ooh.
Because to me, it's like, how water is like ice and then it's like
Oh, how I
fluid
can. Yes, but
and
it
then
can
it's
go
like
between
gas.
phases.
It can go between. To
Yeah.
me, that is what life is. So you have spiritual realm, which is like steam and gas. Emotions is like the liquid part of us.
Ooh.
And then like the thing that we see, the actual intellect, that
It's
skill
iced.
set or whatever, is like ice because you actually see that, right?
Yeah, you could touch it. You could. Well,
You could
yes,
touch it.
yes.
Yeah,
It's
it's
yeah.
like
You can
you can
move it.
manifest
You
this
could,
thing.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
our intellect, we can speak it. Our,
Mhm.
we can sing it. We can do it, right? So that is the fullest form of the manifested, right? This intellect, and so many of us is stuck in our fullness of that, like whatever our skill is, whatever our belief is, whatever that is, and we're so detached from our emotions, so we're numb. We don't even feel anymore. I can't even tell you how I feel. I meet with some clients and I can't even tell you how I feel about it. I'm done with it. Like, I'm done.
Because I like that analogy with water because it's still water, but it's not as accommodating. It's
Mm-mm.
limiting when it's in that ice phase. If you're only in ice, I can't go to places that the water can. And then if you take it to the spiritual, if you're referring that to gas, gas can go everywhere. You know what
Everywhere.
I'm saying? So
Yes,
you reach the spiritual, but
absolutely.
I like that.
Yes,
So,
yes,
if you're only living in that sense, it
yeah,
limits you in your
yeah.
range.
And I'm glad that you said that because I think that there's a lot of people who are stuck, frozen, who need to go through a thawing process to even have a spiritual experience.
Ooh, deep.
You know what I mean? And I think
Yes.
so many of us is stuck in our intellect or our thinking mind or our thinking person, and we're praying to God and we're, want this connection with God and we want to hear this calling from God. But it's like, yeah, but you gotta kind of thaw. You gotta
Yeah.
thaw. You gotta kind of
You
step
gotta
out
loosen
your
up a little
head,
bit.
yeah,
You
and
gotta
start
get in touch with
getting your
yourself. Who
body.
are you?
And
Your
listen,
emotional
an
brain.
emotion, research says that an emotion only lasts 90 seconds.
Nice. I like
Listen,
science facts.
an emotion only lasts 90 seconds. So anger will only last 90 seconds. Sadness will only last 90 seconds. Happiness will only last 90 seconds. Now, what happens that you think you felt this emotion for 2, 3, 4 weeks?
It
What do
was
you
your
think happened?
perception. It was your interpretation of the
So
of that
what ends up
emotion.
happening is a situation happens,
Mhm.
you feel an emotion about it,
Mhm.
right? So, um, oh my gosh, I want to be mindful with my words, but oh my gosh, he just hurt my feelings with what he said, right?
Yeah.
So now I
I
feel
feel
sad.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then now I'm like, well, what if he meant to hurt me? So now I'm compounding that. Now I got another emotion from that thought. And
Now I'm
then it's
angry.
like, and what if he said, and then what if he said that around some people that would have said that, right? So now I got
Now,
another
now
thought
I'm
that's
offended.
compounding emotion. And then it's like, yeah, so then now I have a narrative of
That was
five thoughts
snowballing.
and five emotions, right? But now what I do is I call Danielle and I'm like, yeah, let me tell you what he said. And then, what if he would have said it from this? And then Danielle now give me a thought. And now I'm rambling in that emotion of Danielle's perspective, and she like, yeah, and then he probably did that with his old girlfriend, and so now I have an emotion about that. So do you see now how
It's
an emotion
snowball.
that was supposed to be a 90-second experience now ends up being a whole mood because you've added so much context and so much assumption to an experience that was, I'm sad for 90 seconds. Let me breathe through this. So now let me tell you what happens. If somebody called me, I get upset. They say I want to hang up the phone in their face.
Hmm.
I don't want to hear this. Like, you talking crazy. I will literally take a deep breath, right? I'm not saying I don't hang up the phone in people's faces because sometimes I do, right? I do. Like, let me just,
I think we've
I
all
don't
been there.
hang up in their face. I just say bye. Like, I'm
Yeah,
about to get off the
I always hit them
phone.
with the
Bye.
okay. I'm
Yeah.
done with this
Yeah, I'm
conversation.
done.
Bye.
But listen, but when I get off that call, I breathe that out. I'm not thinking about what they think about me hanging up or not or whatever. I'm quick to change or whatever. And then I may call back, give me 5 minutes, and I may call back like, you know what? So I process that. I put myself in timeout, and my friends know, especially my male friends know, I'm putting myself in timeout.
Yeah,
I just because if I
I
don't
do.
put myself
I
in
do the same
timeout,
thing.
yeah, I may say something or do something, and I need to process how I felt about that. Because
Yeah.
if I don't process what I felt about that, then that is going to turn into a big thing, and
Hmm.
I don't want it to be a big thing. So let me just kind of get off this phone. Let me process what you just said, and let me feel the emotion versus trying to think about why you
Yeah.
said what you said. So a big lesson for me in life was feeling stuff in my body and allow myself to feel the emotion without thinking about it. And that's
Hmm.
what meditation comes in.
Yes.
So we learn how to manage our emotion by one becoming aware of the emotions we're feeling. And a big part of meditation, the practice of meditation, is just that.
Hmm.
What kind of thoughts are in my atmosphere that's going on? And I'm thinking of and I'm aware of these in a very non-judgmental way, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, that's a thought. Oh, that's a feeling, right? And so sitting there for 20, I think I have like over 200,000 hours of meditation
Oh, you've been
just because
clocking?
I do. And my app actually does it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's like sometimes I really do because especially when you're transforming your life, there's a lot of emotional stuff that comes up for you, for me, for everybody. And remember, the reason why we're trying to find out the life we have is truly because we're trying to probably run away from what we feel, what we're feeling.
Hmm.
So we really do need to learn how to manage your emotions. And if any of you guys need help with managing your emotions, you can inbox me at I Am Shaping Solutions. You can, inbox my co-host and she has some help for you. But we really need to get a hook on thawing ourselves from this
Yes.
intellectual thinking person of what I think about you. Even how people answer questions, you could tell if a person is emotional because they use words like I thought this, oh I thought that, or I thought that. You could tell a person who's more physical, who's more fluid, and don't have any solitude or solidarity, or just
Yeah,
solidness to
what do you
them
say?
because they're always saying, I felt like you meant this, or I
Oh
felt this,
man.
right? So you can actually know where a person sits at by the language that they actually use because they're going to tell you if they're a thinking person, if they're a feeling person. And what we want to do in this life, right, is to be able to have a balance,
Hmm.
a
Yes.
thinking mind in an emotional body, right? In an emotional person that we have access to and that we're allowing to be a part of our experiences, right?
Yeah.
Does that make
Because
sense?
that to me, and the first thing that came to mind is that's still a skill that you have to be able to interpret, like you exactly what you said, because and I'm thinking it from a perspective of being a black woman, where it's like you come into certain situations and people talk to you, but you have to learn how to read between the lines as to far as what are they actually saying. And
Mhm.
you know that you are you they're being, you have to be in tune, and it comes from a place of, it comes from both that place of, I've done this before. Is this being done to me right now? Or I've seen
Mhm.
this done before. Is this being done to me right now? But
Yeah.
the management is sitting and processing,
Yes.
that, but
Yes.
it's still important to be in that physical state, but to go in between those states, I think
Yes.
is, yeah,
And so we have people who are empaths too. So people who are highly emotional and they
yes,
absorb their environments, right? Like, so they
yes,
get overly drained because they're so emotional about things that, again, they don't have the solid part. They don't have the thinking rational part.
they're
Like,
spread
that's
all
not
over
your
the place. Yeah.
situation. You need to create a boundary for that. But
Hmm.
one of the things that I think that I heard you say was intuition. And I think a lot of times we're not getting our lesson because we're not emotionally in tune. Either we
Yes.
have too high of emotions or not enough emotions.
Yes.
And so we're not getting the signal, right?
Yes.
That intuition. And if we are getting it, we don't trust it because trust is also a facilitating factor of emotion, right? So trust is an extension of my emotion to you. And if I don't have trust because I have limited access to my emotion, then even if I get this feeling or this butterflies in my stomach or this kind of like, oh, I shouldn't be here, or oh, if everything in my intelligence is telling me this is not a good situation, if
Hmm.
I don't have any emotional management or I'm not in tune to my emotions, I may not even trust that signal, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's just me.
Oh, that's
And
just me being
now,
me when the
yeah,
world is screaming, run,
yeah, yeah.
get
And
out.
here's the thing, but my intellectual or my desire or my ideal mind of what I want this to be is overriding my intuitive person. So
Yeah.
because I want you to be my next boyfriend, or because I want the check that comes from this job, or because I want this thing, the idea of it is so profound to me, and I could think about that and I could see that thing all the way through of how we could be and what this could look like in my personal life or in my career. But intuitively, it's like, yeah, but this ain't for you though. But you're not trusting that gut because you're
Mhm.
not really emotionally attached to yourself. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, and that's a journey in itself. And I feel like you know, that's a whole life experience, just
Yes.
being able to manage your emotions. And it is about tools, having the tools to manage the emotions when they come up. It's like, because sometimes you will have floods, right?
Yes.
And you have to know how to dam
Somebody
yourself
gonna
when
come
those
and
floods come in.
rip that floodgate open, and it's gonna come
It's
out,
gonna come
and
out, yeah.
it's just a matter of if it's gonna
Yeah.
be a 1 day flood or a 10-year flood.
Yeah, and how do we manage that when I'm in a flood? And then as women, and I talked to my client about this today, we have cycles. So there's naturally a time of the month where you're just going to be more emotional, but
Mhm.
because we work in a system that is not aligned with that type of cycle, like you still got to go to work every day, you still got to feed your kids every day, you still got to do stuff. And
Show up.
so when we're out of alignment with who we are in our emotional body, then we can be highly emotional because we're either about to come on our cycle or about to go off. Whether you are on birth control or not, or whether you have periods or not, you still have a season of
Mhm.
emotion or winter season. And if you don't know that, then you can project that off on somebody like, oh, you just made me sad. But at my times when I find myself really emotional, the first thing I check is my calendar, like, okay,
Amen.
what season is this? Because I know that if I'm close to my cycle, then I'm going to, you know,
It's
hear
so funny
you
because
a
for
lot
me, I
differently.
just got in tune with that because I was in a state of ice for so long,
Hmm.
and I started my melting journey a couple years ago. And so now it's more why is everybody making me mad right now? And
Mhm.
then, so then it'll be like, hold on, what day is it? So I love
Yeah,
that you
what
brought
day
that
is
up
it?
because,
Yeah.
but it's the ability to manage it, which makes you stop instead of me blowing up on everybody. It's like, wait a second, why am I
Yeah.
feeling like this?
Yeah,
What
yeah. And it
something's
don't
off
sometimes
here.
have nothing to do with anything that's going
Yeah.
on. It's an internal cycle that
Or they're
you're
doing the
going
same thing
through.
they were doing the other day,
Other
but I
day
wasn't
that
mad the other day.
yeah, that you
Why am
wasn't
I
mad
mad
about.
today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so again, I would just encourage our audience to, one, look at life as lessons because we live and we learn. And each
Yes.
lesson is truly to elevate you. It's for you to get something. And if you the type of person that you always saying like, and I see this with women a lot, and I'm not trying to be biased, but women always are trying to teach men something like he needs to learn how to listen. No, you need to learn
Yep.
how to listen because obviously you're not hearing what he's saying,
Or you need
or
to learn
he
his
needs to learn how to do.
communication language. How
Yeah,
does he
yeah,
prefer to communicate?
yeah,
How
yeah, yeah, yeah. So lessons, just know that life is about lessons, and if we've set up a whole educational system, if we want to be a what is that like I guess people say that the whole educational system is a wash for whatever money or whatever. But I'm saying that there was a structure put in place. Even as a child, you crawl, you
yes.
step, you
Yes.
walk, then you run, right? And
Yes.
each one of those grow
Prepares
on,
you for the
you know
next.
what I mean, prepares you for the next. And so in life is about lessons and it's teaching you something, and nothing is easy. It's an assignment for you to pass. And once you pass that assignment, and typically knowing you passed the assignment is when you take responsibility and ownership. Oh, you
Yes.
know what? It ain't you. It's me. That's all
Mhm.
me. Yep. It's how I'm seeing this. And that's the second thing, perception and interpretation. How are you interpreting life? And what perception do you have? What lens do you have on? Are you playing a victim to your life? Are you in a duty phase? Are you in achievement? Are you truly trying to create win win situations? And if you want to learn more about that, go watch our show
Mhm.
on 2 weeks ago. And I forgot the name of the show. Was it Sit in It? I think it was Sit in
That was one of
It. Yeah,
oh, I can't remember.
and it's really a form of emotional intelligence. So what perspective am I seeing life from? Again, am I seeing life from a duty phase, from a fear phase, which is victim, from achiever phase, or am I really trying to create win-win situations? And it's truly just breaking you from codependency to independence to interdependence. To get that, you have to know what your focus is, because remember, where our attention goes, our energy flows. And sometimes we're just paying attention to the wrong thing. There's a universal law that says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That means for every great thing you do, something bad gonna happen. So why are we
Yeah.
surprised about it? They say it's
Amen.
another saying that says no good deed goes unpunished. I think there's a Bible scripture that says it rains on the just and the unjust. So why, when these bad things happen to us, we act like they are like an attack against us? No, it's just life. But here's another secret: if you pay attention to the bad, you will reap more bad. If
Mhm.
you pay attention to the good, you will reap more good. So have
Yes.
a plan, devise a plan in your life to start paying attention to the good things. And the best thing you can do is have a gratitude journal. And we have these. Let's see if
Ooh.
you see it, the 5 minute
Ooh.
journals
Okay.
that we sell. I just so happen to have it right there. But the 5 minute journal is just that. It'll ask you, what are you grateful for today? What would you like today to be? What is your daily affirmation? It just asks you 5 questions to go through. I'm not a journaler, so this works for me because it gives me an opportunity to tell me what I'm grateful for. It gives me an opportunity to create the day that I want. It gives me the opportunity to reflect and highlight. And then when I go to sleep, what am I grateful for about what I went to sleep with? And then emotions, managing our emotions. And I'm a big person, learn emotional intelligence. Life is about emotions. And until we learn how to handle our emotions, we're not going to be able to deal with the ever changing things that's happening in our life.
Mhm.
And life stands for love of self, interactions, focus, and energy, right?
Mhm.
Make sure you guys sign up for our 30-day affirmation challenge.
Ooh,
The
ooh.
link will be in the bio, or you can follow us at Elevating Life. The link is in our
Stuff,
on
stuff.
that page to download. Any
Facebook.
any reflections today? I think we went over a little bit, but
I know, but it was a good discussion. I like this one. I like
Yeah,
this one. It was.
yeah,
I like how you started. These are adult conversations, and it requires somebody with that has emotional intelligence or wants to finally unlock that next level. I think
yeah,
that's the big thing.
yeah.
I think
And if and
the lesson analogy really brought it home because, like you said, whether it's school or if you're watching a child or anything, there are steps that have to happen. And each
yeah,
step builds on the prior. It does not
yeah,
absolve the prior. It does not delete the prior. It does not
yeah,
disregard the prior. It builds upon it. And I think that's
yeah,
the really takeaway where it's like, all
yeah,
that stuff that you've been through, what did you get out of it? And what are
yeah.
you going to make out of it to create the life you want?
Right. And if you don't know that, then I would encourage you to get a coach, get a therapist. I would
Mhm.
encourage you to inbox me. I would encourage you to inbox Danielle, and really start the conversation, right, about how we're going to do this. We do have our Elevating Life Facebook group that we're opening where we're going to
Mhm.
have some wind downs.
Woo woo.
Mm. We were supposed to start this week, but I think we're going to start it next week. It's going to be our wind down
I'm
Monday, right? And
excited.
so basically, whatever our topic is, we're going to go into that group and we're going to have a conversation about it. And then I'm going to have my glass of wine so y'all get to kind of get the little bit of the raw, the raw me.
I don't drink wine, so
Um,
I'm gonna pick my beverage of choice to
and we know
ease
her
up.
beverage.
But
Well, I don't drink wine either, but it's still going to be a wind down.
come to the
Well, we
wine
just
down for
kind of,
Danielle
yeah.
stories for days.
So we just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to have like a more in-depth dialogue. Right now we're just brushing you with information. Each one of these things, I know we say that it's an adult conversation, and when I say it's an adult conversation, I really want you to know, like, so if it's striking you or if you got a judgment, I really want you to ask yourself, like, why am I having a judgment about what a therapist and a coach who have committed their careers to doing this, what is my judgment about that? And is it a judgment or if it's a question? And if it's a question, post it in our chat. Let's have a conversation about it, right? To get a perspective, right? Because that's what life is. It's all shades of gray, right? And
Big
no shade is better than the other, right? And we're just giving our perspective. And so I thank you for being with us another week.
woo
Uh,
woo.
I am Sheila. Like I said, you can follow us at Elevating Life on Facebook. I'm Sheila Little, your coach, your synergy coach. And this is my co host.
Danielle MacArthur.
And we thank you again. And we will see you next week. Same place, same time. Like, share, and comment. This may not be for you, but it may be helpful to someone you know. So, continue to spread the word about our show so we can not just help you elevate, but a friend too. We love you.
We all winning.
Yes.
We all can win.
Thank you. Bye bye.
See ya.